In today's video, I want to talk about when demands become trauma. We're going to navigate pathological demand avoidance, or PDA, and the high-stakes marital deadlocks. Have you ever asked your autistic spouse to do something simple, take out the trash, answer a question, help with the kids, and instead of a normal response, it's like everything shuts down or explodes. He withdraws, he gets irritated, he avoids, or he acts like you just attacked him. And you're left thinking, why does everything feel so hard? Why does everything fall on me? And why does a basic request turn into a full-blown conflict? So today we're going to talk about something that most marriage advice completely misses. When demands don't feel like requests, they feel like threats to the nervous system. And for many autistic individuals, especially those with PDA profiles, a simple ask can register internally as loss of autonomy, loss of control, and even psychological danger. And this is where marriages get stuck. Not because of lack of love, but because the body of the ASD individual is interpreting connection as pressure. Let's talk about why traditional advice fails. Most marriage advice says things like, communicate clearly, be direct, ask her what you need, set expectations. But here's the problem. Those strategies assume a regulated nervous system. If your ASD spouse also has a PDA profile, clarity can feel like control. Expectations can feel like pressure. Requests can feel like demands. So instead of improving their relationship, these strategies trigger shutdown, avoidance, defensiveness, or escalation. And then both partners feel stuck. The NT wife feels, I can't even ask for basic things. The PDA partner feels, I can't breathe in this relationship. And that's the deadlock. Now let's talk about what PDA actually feels like from the inside. Let's slow this down and really understand what's happening internally. For someone on the autism spectrum with PDA traits, a demand doesn't just land cognitively, it lands physiologically. It can feel like I'm being controlled, I'm losing my autonomy, I have no choice, I'm trapped. And that triggers the autonomic nervous system. Fight, flight, freeze. Cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline. So when you say, hey, can you do the dishes? Your spouse may interpret that as, you have to do this. You don't have control. You're being micromanaged. You're losing your independence here. And the ASD spouse's system reacts automatically. Not logically, not intentionally, automatically. So what you as the NT wife see on the outside is procrastination, avoidance, irritation, I'll do it later, or just complete shutdown. But what's actually going on is a threat response in your ASD spouse. Let's talk about the marital deadlock pattern. And here's how this plays out in real relationships. I want to walk you through a common loop. First, there's the request. The NT wife asks for something reasonable. Then there's the trigger. The PDA partner's nervous system spikes. Then there's avoidance or resistance. He delays, deflects, or disengages. And then there's the NT partner's escalation. Now the request becomes more direct, more urgent, more emotional. Step 5, the PDA partner feels more pressure, which increases the threat response. And step 6, the shutdown or conflict. And now both partners feel unheard, disrespected, and exhausted. But here's the key insight. Neither person is actually the problem. The problem is the interaction between nervous systems. Now let's talk about reframing. This is not laziness or defiance, okay? This is where we need a major mindset shift. If you interpret PDA as laziness, immaturity, lack of control, you'll respond with pressure, frustration, and control attempts, which makes everything worse. Instead, reframe it as a trauma-like response to perceived loss of autonomy. Your ASD spouse is very independent, self-sufficient, autonomous, but he also fears losing that autonomy. By the way, a little side note about pathological demand avoidance. I'm not real fond of that term because his avoidance is not pathological. It's consistent and it's significant, but pathological? Really? I don't think so. Also, you're not making demands, you're making reasonable requests. So instead of pathological demand avoidance, maybe we should call it significant avoidance for reasonable requests coming from the NT wife. And I can understand why you would want to call it PDA. But what's really going on there is a trauma-like response to perceived loss of autonomy. Now, this doesn't mean that there's no responsibilities, or that there's no expectations, or that the relationship becomes one-sided. Oh, no. But it does change how we approach the problem, because you're no longer trying to force behavior, you're trying to create safety first. Now let's talk about why the nervous system should come before the task. This is the shift that changes everything. In PDA dynamics, regulation comes before cooperation. If your ASD spouse's nervous system is activated, the task is already lost. So instead of focusing on, did you get that done? We need to shift to, is the nervous system safe enough to engage? That's the real question here. Because cooperation is not built through pressure. Lack of cooperation certainly is. Real cooperation is built through felt safety and autonomy. Let's talk about some practical neuro-affirming strategies. We're going to make this very simple. Here's some methods that actually work in PDA-informed relationships. Number 1, reduce direct demands. Instead of, can you take out the trash? Try, I notice the trash is getting full and I'm trying to figure out when that might get handled. This removes the command structure. 2, offer autonomy. Instead of, please do this right now, try, would now or later work better for you? How would you prefer to approach this? Choice reduces threat. Number 3, use collaboration language. Instead of, you need to help more, try, how can I make this feel easier for both of us? You're on the same team. Number 4, lower emotional intensity. Intensity equals pressure. Even if your words are calm, your tone, urgency, or repetition can signal, this is not optional, you need to get it done. So we need to slow it down, space it out. Number 5, build in indirect pathways. Sometimes the most effective request is not a request at all. For example, shared lists, visual reminders, humor, playfulness. These bypass the demand triggers. Number 6, validate before re-engaging. If there's already resistance, try, I think that felt like pressure for you. That wasn't my intention. This reduces threat immediately. Now let's talk about the emotional reality for the NT spouse. I want to be honest for a moment here. This is hard because it can feel like you're walking on eggshells. You can't ask for help. Everything falls on you, and that matters. This is not about dismissing your needs or saying, well, you're just asking too much. No. It's about finding a path where your needs can actually be met without triggering shutdown in your ASD spouse. So if your relationship feels stuck in this PDA pattern, it's not because you're failing, it's because you've been using strategies that don't match the nervous system you're working with. When you shift from control to safety, demands to autonomy, and pressure to collaboration, something changes. Not overnight, but gradually. And that's where movement begins again. If this helped you understand your ASD partner who also has some pathological demand avoidance, subscribe, because this is the kind of conversation most people are not having, but it's exactly what neurodiverse relationships need. Also, please comment. I will read and respond to your comment. I'll see you in the next video. Would you like to schedule a paid private coaching session? This will be in the form of a face-to-face Zoom call. Underneath any of my videos, you'll see this Calendly link. If you click on that link, it'll open up my calendar. You can pick the available days and times that works for your schedule. You'll get a follow-up email immediately after purchasing a session that will have the Zoom link that coincides with the day and time that you picked. I will get an email too that you scheduled a session, and I will be available on that exact day and time, and we will talk. I look forward to working with you. Hey guys, this is Mark. Some of you may not know that I have a lot of books on Amazon. So if you like my videos, you'll like my books. I have several for ASD spouses, for NT spouses, and for the neurodiverse couple. Underneath any of my videos, you'll see this link. Feel free to click on that link and see what's available. I'm sure you'll find something that applies to you. So if you're struggling in your neurodiverse marriage, help is available, one click away.